Hello and welcome back to another video on Unpacked Technologies. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how you can install Linux on a Mac device. This will work on all types of Macs, such as this MacBook Pro here, as well as iMacs, MacBook Airs, and Mac Minis. Now, this tutorial is for all of the Intel-based machines. If you've got an M1 or Apple Silicon-based Mac, the process will be slightly different and it'll be limited as to what types of Linux distributions you can use. Now, today's process will allow you to use any Linux distribution of your choice. In this video, I'm going to be using Zorin OS as that's my personal preference. However, you can use some other ones like Ubuntu or things like that. The installation process should be similar for most of the different ones, but there might be some slight variations. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so just before we get started, this process is going to show you how to do a clean install of it. So it'll completely wipe whatever operating system you have on it currently. In this case, I've got Mac OS. It'll be completely wiped and it'll be only Linux. Now, if you want to be able to dual boot Linux and Mac OS on your Mac, I do have a video that I've made for that previously. I'll leave that linked in the cards and in the description below if you'd like to see that, so you can choose to boot into either of those operating systems. However, this tutorial is just going to be for a clean install, so be aware that you will lose anything that's currently on the hard drive in this process, so make sure you have a backup before you get started. So before we get started, you will need the Mac you're going to install it on. In this case, this is a 2012 MacBook Pro 13-inch. And you'll also need a 8GB or larger USB drive so that you can put the Linux distribution on it. Now, for this USB, I'd recommend USB 3.0 if possible, as it'll be faster, but USB 2 drives will also work. Now, just if you want to know why you might want to install Linux on your Mac, for a lot of Macs like this one here, it does not support officially the latest version of Mac OS, and while you can patch it to run like Mac OS Big Sur or Mac OS Monterey on an unsupported Mac, which I have made those videos as well, I'll leave them in the cards and in the description, sometimes the experience isn't the best depending on the age, and Linux can run natively with the latest version. There's no system requirements like from Apple, for example. So that's why you might want to run it Linux on a Mac. And now to show you how you can prepare for the installation, I'm going to switch to a screen recording where I'll take you through the steps on how to create the bootable USB and also download the files. So I'll switch over to that now. Alright, so now we're on the screen recording. Now, just to let you know, I'm doing this on Mac OS because if you're installing it on a Mac, then it's most likely that you'd be running Mac OS for this part of the video. However, if you're on Windows, for example, the steps will be almost identical. You just they're pretty much the same, except maybe a few minor differences, but you should still be able to follow along. So that's if you're using Boot Camp for Windows on your Mac or something, but for most people they would probably be running Mac OS. So now that we're in Mac OS, what we'll do is we'll go to our web browser. In this case, I'm using Safari. And the first thing you need to do is download the distribution of Linux that you would like to use. So as I mentioned earlier, in this case, I'm going to be using Zorin OS. So I'll just search for Zorin OS and then go to their website. Their website is zorin.com. And we'll just let that load in. And as I mentioned earlier, you can use any distribution. A really popular one is Ubuntu, for example. Zorin OS is based on Ubuntu, so the installation is very similar if you're going to do those two between the two Linux distributions. But yeah, you can download any of them. The reason I like Zorin OS a lot is because the user interface, I think, is quite nice on it. It really makes it easy if you want to go to Linux from using a Mac or a Windows PC because it's quite familiar and they've got lots of different layouts to make you feel comfortable with making the switch. But if you want to download it, you go to their website, then click download, and then you can choose to either get the Pro version, Core, or the Lite. If your Mac is really old, I recommend the Core. If you want some extra features and some extra productivity apps, you can get the Pro as well. But we'll go to the Core for now. And then you can choose to subscribe to their newsletter, or you can just click skip to download. And then it will start downloading any moment now. And then you just click allow, and then it would start downloading the file. So if we click allow, you can see that it is about 3 gigabytes large. Now, my internet's a bit slow at the moment, so that's why it's saying it's going to take ages. So for the purposes of this video, I do already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to cancel this. But for you, you can just wait until that finishes. So once you've done that, you should find that the .iso file is in your downloads folder, as you can see there. And now what we need to do is get a program to flash that ISO file onto the USB drive. So what I usually use for this process is a program called Etcher. This works really well for any sort of Linux flashing to USB drives. I find that it's quite fast and quite efficient at doing this. So all you need to do is search for Etcher in Google and then click enter. And the website is balena.io. So it'll be the top result in Google here. Make sure you go to this one. This is their true website. So we'll go to that. And then you'll see a page like this. And then what you can do is click download for Mac OS or whatever operating system you are running. So it's not what you want to install onto your Mac, it's what you're running right now. So I'm pretty sure this Mac version covers both the Apple Silicon and the Intel based machines. In my case, this is an M1 Mac Mini, so it should download the ARM version automatically. So if I click download for Mac OS here, and then I can just click allow, and it will download the DMG file for Etcher. So I'll just give that a moment to finish, and then I'll come back when that's completed. Alright, so it's almost completed here, and as you can see, it's just completed. So once you've downloaded that, you can now close out and quit Safari. And then what you can do is go to your Finder, and then go to your downloads folder or wherever the downloads are saved to on your computer. And then what you can do is double click on balenaetcher.dmg. And then you can just drag it to your applications folder. And as you can see, that's just copied over. So once it's copied over, you can actually just eject the DMG by either right clicking and clicking eject, or you can just drag it down to the bin and it goes into a little eject icon, as you can see there, and then that will eject it. So once that's done, you can then go to your applications folder and open Balena Etcher, and then just click open here. We'll give it a moment to open. Alright, so it's just opened up Etcher here, and the first thing we need to do is click flash from file. So we'll click flash from file here, and then you need to locate your Linux distribution ISO. So in this case, I need to find my Zorin OS ISO image that we downloaded earlier. So I'll go to my downloads folder, and then I'll double click on the Zorin OS.iso file. Alright, so now that's inserted into the Etcher file here. What I need to do now is select a target. So this is when you need to put the USB drive into your Mac if you haven't already done so. So I'm just going to plug the USB into my Mac here. There we go, plugged the USB drive into my Mac. So now I click select target, and this is where you need to be really careful about which one you select here, so that you're selecting the right drive in case you don't want to erase anything else. In this case here, mine's the 8GB drive, so just check that it matches the name and also the size of the drive. So then you can just select the target and then click select. And then once you've got those two things and you confirm that they're correct, you can just click flash. And now you may need to provide administrator privileges for it to work. So just type in your administrator password and then click enter. And then at this point, it will start to flash the drive. Now, it may ask for permission to access files on a removable volume. Just allow that. And then, as you can see, it started to flash the drive. So you can see it's operating at around 12 megabytes per second, and it reckons it'll take around 4 minutes to complete. So it's got a little percentage progress bar. Once this completes, it'll go to a validation stage, where it just checks that it's copied everything over correctly and made the bootable files without corrupting anything. And then once that's done, it will be all good to go and flash into the Mac. So I'll come back when this is completed. Alright, so as you can see, it's almost finished the flashing stage, where it will then move on to validation. There you go, you can see it's on validating here. You can skip this if you would like, but I recommend letting it go just so it can check it has done the creation of the bootable media properly. This should be quicker than the flashing stage anyway. It'll only take about a minute and a half. It's running at about 30 megabytes per second, so it won't take too long, and I'll come back when this is finished. Alright, so you can see that the validating process is almost complete here. 99%, here we go. Alright, it's finished. And now you'll get an error from macOS that the disk you attached was not readable by this computer. That's normal. Any Linux sort of USB won't be readable by Windows or macOS. So just click ignore in this stage. I'm just going to allow notifications from Etcher. And then it will say flash complete, one successful target, and then you can flash another drive if you would like. However, at this point, this is all we need to do for our installation. So now I'm going to switch back to the camera view, where I'll show you how to install your distribution of Linux onto your Mac device. So I'll switch back over to that now. Alright, so now we're back on the camera view, and we have got our bootable USB ready to go with the Zorin OS installer on it. So what we're going to do now is, if your Mac isn't already shut down, you need to shut it down. Now, this will be the last time you are on the operating system that you currently have installed on your Mac device, as it will be completely erased during this process. So make sure you've got a backup of that if you've got anything important. And once again, a reminder that you can check out that dual booting video if you don't want to lose this data. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we need to plug the USB drive into the Mac, like so. And what you're going to need to do is boot up the Mac holding down the Option key, which is this one just here. So we'll turn it on, and then you can hold down the Option key. It doesn't matter what side, there's also one over here. But yeah, just keep holding it until you see the boot menu options. Alright, and there you go, you'll see the boot menu options. Now, you most likely won't have as many as I do here, because I've got a lot of different operating systems. But what you need to do is go all the way over to the one that says EFI boot. It's usually like the yellow USB drive one there. So you can use the arrow keys to go all the way over, and then click enter once it's selected. And then you'll see this option here, and I recommend just clicking try or install whatever Linux distribution you have. So just click enter on that, and then it will start booting up into the installer environment for the particular Linux distribution. So I'll just give it a moment here. And there you go, you can see that has the Zorin logo there. And what will happen now is we just need to wait. You'll see that the USB drive will start to flash. That's one of my recommendations also, to have a USB drive that has an LED flashing indicator, because it's good to know when you're in the installation progress. It's good to know how far along you are. And sometimes if something feels like nothing's happening, it's a good idea to be able to see if this is flashing, because if it's not flashing, then it means something might have gone wrong and nothing's happening. But if it's still flashing, then it means that it's still doing stuff. Now, what you might see here is it's doing some checks here. Just let that go. That might take a couple of minutes. Don't worry too much about that. It's just making sure everything's okay. And I'll come back when this is completed. All right, so as you can see, this process is now almost complete, And what will happen now, it says check finished, no errors found, and then it should boot into the Linux installer environment, where it will let you either try or install the operating system. So you might see the little animation for your particular chosen Linux distribution, and then you'll see the little mouse show up, and now we're into the installer environment. All right, and that's a little noise that Zorin OS makes when you come onto it. Now, try and make this as bright as possible so you can see it. Now, if you've never used Linux before and you want to see if you like it, you can click try Linux, and that will let you see how it runs. It'll be a bit slow because it's running off the USB drive, but that will give you a good idea about how it will run for you and whether it's right for you. But if you've had some experience with Linux before and you're ready to make the jump, you can go over and click install Zorin OS. So we'll click that. All right, and then it will ask for a keyboard layout. So I'm going to go English Australian. There we go. Click continue. All right, I'll give it a moment here. All right, and now it's going to ask about updates and other software. Now, what I would make sure you check is tick this box that says install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware. This will be required because if you don't tick this, Linux won't recognize the Mac Wi-Fi card, so it means you wouldn't have any Wi-Fi support. So you need to make sure that is checked. And then you can also decide not to participate in the census if you don't want to. I'm going to tick that box to say I don't want to do that, and then click continue. This might take a moment just to load this part. Always seems to be one of the longer parts of this process here. All right, so at this point you can see it says installation type, and it's going to ask about what type of installation you want to do. Now for this process, we're just going to click erase disk and install Zorin OS because we want to get rid of whatever current operating system is on the computer and make sure that we don't use that anymore. Make sure you do have a backup of it because it will be erased in this process, and make sure that's really what you want to do because you're going to lose everything and it's going to be a clean install of Linux. As I've mentioned a number of times, if you do want to dual boot this, stop this video now and go to the link in the description below for my other video on how to dual boot it. That's really important that you know that that's available because I don't want you losing any data. All right, so now that we've got erase disk and install Zorin OS selected, we'll just click install now down here in the bottom right as the button. Click that and we'll give it a moment here, and it should then prompt us for the next stage. And it says, write changes to disks. If you continue, the changes listed below will be written to the disk. Otherwise, you'll be able to make further changes manually. So this is just warning us that the entire disk is going to be erased in favor of putting Zorin OS or your version of Linux as the main operating system. Just once again, make sure that you're okay with that. I'm not responsible for any data loss, so make sure that you are really wanting to go ahead with this, and then just click continue once you've decided that you are happy. Now you just need to select where you are in the world. So I'll go to Sydney here and then click continue. And then you just need to enter in some details for the machine. So a username, I'll just make this MacBook Pro. And then your computer's name, a username, MacBook. And then we'll just make a password, maybe 12345 should do. 12345. And then you can select whether you want it to log in automatically and then whether you want it to require the password to log in. So I'll just leave that as default. By the way, I wouldn't recommend using 12345 as a password. It's just for today's purposes of filming. Once you've done all that, you can then just click continue and it will start the installation process. So you'll see that it has all this information here. Don't worry if you don't understand that. That's sort of just Linux stuff. And you've got your little progress bar down here. And then at the end, it will prompt you with a little thing saying that the installation is complete and whether you want to restart your computer. If at any time you want to find out more information about the installation, you can click the little down arrow and see what is going on. But that's probably more for professionals who sort of understand this stuff. But for most people, you can just leave that shut and just look at the progress indicator to see what is happening and how it is progressing. So yeah, once the installation is complete, I'll come back to show you the final process of rebooting and having a first look at Linux on your Mac device. So I'll come back when this completes. All right, so as you can see, it now says the installation is complete and it says you'll need to restart the computer in order to use the new installation. So it's finally finished. It probably took around 15 to 20 minutes. So now all you need to do is click restart now. It will restart your computer and then it should reboot back into Linux. So it'll say, please remove the installation medium, then press enter. So we'll remove the bootable USB and then we can click enter here. And it should now reboot into your Linux operating system. So we'll make sure that that works. Okay, so here we go. It's just going into it now, it looks like. Yep, here we go. So you can now see the Zorin logo. If you're on something like Ubuntu, it'll say Ubuntu there or something similar. They all have their own boot up screens, but the way they work is fairly similar. So we'll give this a moment here to boot up. All right, and now it's gone into the login screen. So you can just select the user you made earlier. In this case, mine's called MacBook Pro. And then you can just type in your password. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, just for the demonstration purposes. And then it should now load into the operating system. So we'll give it a moment here. Might be a little bit slow on first boot just because it's an initial boot up. But there you go. As you can see, we're now in Zorin OS. So this is a fully working copy now. It says here, welcome to Zorin OS 16.1. It's got a little sound effect in the background there. So what we can do is you can start the tour if you've never used this before and you want to learn it. Otherwise, you can just click no thanks. So as you can see, this is a fully working copy of Linux here with Zorin OS. The Wi-Fi networks are working from the drivers that we put in earlier, which is good news. So yeah, it's all working quite nicely. It seems nice and snappy so far. I'm just opening a few things up here to see how it performs. And it looks like it's going quite nicely. I'm not seeing any graphical glitches or anything like that. And what you can do is if you want to change how it looks to match a different appearance, you can go to Zorin Appearance here. This might vary depending on the distribution you use, but then you can just choose a couple of different layouts that match what you're used to. That's sort of like a Ubuntu look there. And then you've got the touch layout, which I think looks quite nice as well. But I'll leave it to the Windows layout by default for now. So yeah, that's a pretty simple process on how to install Linux as the main operating system on your Mac. Hopefully this was helpful and it was quite straightforward for you as well. I found this process fairly simple. And once you've made the installation USB and you've got it going, it's quite smooth after that. So let me know in the comments below how you went with your installation and if you've had some good success with this. And I really hope it's gone well for you. Thanks for watching this video on Unpack Technologies. Also, let me know in the comments below if there's any other video suggestions you would like, maybe some other Linux tutorials, and whether you want Linux on a Windows PC maybe. Let me know all that stuff in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.